with it as well each time I come here.
I like some of the initiatives that were taken at Taylor. The most recent being the Pay with Flexi that we recently just launched, and you can see how that has caught fire, and like customers are really excited about it because it gives them the flexibility of owning tailor pieces that they've always wanted to own and just conveniently spread the payment across a certain number of months or at their convenience. I'm also very excited about the AR/VR. I know that that's even going to be bigger for us because it just launches us into like an entirely different landscape. You don't have to go to a brick and mortar. But from the comfort of your home, you can literally interact with our PCs and just generally have that experience. And yeah, it's definitely fun. It's fun working with Jumoke, fun working working with you.
I don't see Taylor stopping in Nigeria. I see Taylor in East Africa, I see Taylor in South Africa, I see Taylor in Europe, I see Taylor in America, and I feel it's just a matter of time. Taylor will get to that point whereby the way you have Roche Bobois of France, you know, IKEA is Swedish, then a brand from Africa, you know, like Taylor would go ahead to become an internationally recognized brand.
He used to say that was the happiest day of his life. But hiyo siku, he found a friend and a brother.
Kuna kitu nimekuwa nikitaka kukuambia for a while.
Tutasimama tisti kwa ajili ya dunia yetu, familia zetu na marafiki wetu, sio?
This is the way we're going to invade your sitting rooms once every week. Allah.
And this is what we mean. The originals. Lipua Lipua. Veve Productions. Orchestra Kiam. And so much more.
Merindimo ya ngoma za rumba kutoka pembe zote za Afrika. Zilizopepea, zinazopepea. Kwa kiasi ambacho hutang'atuka ng'o from your sitting room.
Wow, Buzi Buziana, Scholar Miel, Betty Beast, Fifi Mofude, among others.
Bridge over Congo with Simeon Mfumu Kimbangu.
And Winnie Marie-José on KBC Channel 1.
Zambia Sambela Kate, Ako Sambela Nani.
God does not worship. To whom will he worship?
And the days when we were in primary school, when we used to be told, asiyefunzwa na mamaye, ufunzwa na ulimwengu, na ulimwengu mwenyewe, mafundishowe machungu. Those were our primary days.
I tell you, you've just taken me back to mgeni ukumpokea kumbe.
There's a lot of just this shairi. Yes. You are always so dire. You are always just warning about dire consequences. Asiyefunzwa like you are saying, na mamake, atafunzwa na maandamano, and other things.
Look, Jenny, you're really missing a point here.
What point?
The point is, they all said, whoever is my girlfriend is so lucky. And you're so...
Do you have a good rest last night? You left the office very late, right?
Not late. Hey, catch the elevator. Let's go, hurry.
Hey, wait a minute, would you?
Remember you once told me you just wanted her to be happy? Is that still what you want now? We broke up.
But you liked him so much before. Why do you want to break up? Did he do something wrong or hurt you?
No reason.
Allah anatuambia ndani ya kitabu chake kitukufu, enyi ambao mlioamini nimewafaradhishieni funga.
Yani enyi mlioamini funga ya Ramadhan imefaradhishwa juu yenu kama ilivyofaradhishwa katika wale ambao waliwatangulia, ili muweze kumcha Mwenyezi Mungu Subhanahu wa Ta'ala.
I will never let go. I will never let you.
Good morning, beautiful.
Na wewe nani kwanza?
The name's Lawrence.
I am here to see your husband, Mr. Pitt.
There's no tea neither. Why don't you call him?
Then why are you still holding the gate?
No, na siku hizo unacheza na boss wako games zingine funny.
Just to remind you, if you came here to snatch someone's husband, Mama Felix will tear you down like a piece of pepper.
We need to fire that maid.
You're not even scared I'm going to tell Christine you're having an affair with the husband?
Don't joke with me, Wewe.
I'm about to lose my family. She has evidence.
Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. This is BizCheck. We're live from Broadcasting House. And as usual, we delve deep into the world of business as well as economy and financial matters. This week has been quite challenging for the economy. It is started on a wrong footing for the economy. Mass demonstrations that led to the closure of businesses, and more so here in Nairobi. And you know what? Nairobi is the economic heartbeat of Kenya and the region. And this is expected to have serious ramifications on the economy going forward. And if the threat by Azimio la Umoja to sustain the mass demonstrations twice a week is coming to pass, then you know for sure we are in for a long, dull trip. Well, I say this is BizCheck, where we focus on matters economy, business, as well as finances. According to government statistics, the economy lost about 2 billion shillings on Tuesday. And that is not factoring in the ripple impact of this. Because remember, there were so many hotel cancellations, there were so many business cancellations, meetings, and of course, there were so many delays in terms of flights and people who were stuck in traffic jams. So the multiplying effect is likely to be in tens of billions of shillings. And the question is this: can a battered economy like ours continue to handle more of these pressures? And your answer and my answer is as good as our guess. Tonight, this morning, of course, this is going to be our focus because I have a very interesting picture of Nairobi here. And I want to take you to this wall. Look at this. You see, Nairobi looks absolutely stunning from above, with towering skyscrapers and, of course, glimmering new towers. It looks absolutely beautiful. But you know for sure, when this town is disturbed, then the economy of the country and the region is likely to bear greater responsibility. And that's why Nairobi ought to be kept as calm as possible. I say this is BizCheck, and of course today we just want to focus on the state of our economy. We are coming from a very rough patch. The global pandemic in terms of coronavirus battered our economy, and then we got into a serious drought that has somehow ravaged the agriculture sector, which contributes about 26% to our GDP. And before then, remember, we also came from a highly competitive political period, and of course this being a cyclical event, it usually have a bearing effect on the economy. And so we just want to have a look at how much can the economy handle this morning? Joining me in studio is Peter Macharia. He's the CEO of Jijenge Credit. They're in the business of lending money, and of course, he understands a thing or two about the economy. He's joining me in studio because that is going to form the basis of our conversation this morning. Macharia, thank you very much for joining us. First of all, I want to hear from you. Based on Monday's event, has the business managed to recover fully?
Thank you, Brian, for inviting me to my #1 TV station, that's KBC.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Well, the economy was shaken a bit, but what I can assure you is that Kenyans are resilient. The Kenyan Economic Foundation is very strong, and we can't let go the economy because we don't have any other place to go. Kenya is our home, Kenya is our country, and we must protect it. And I will encourage that peace prevails and dialogue takes place. Yes.
Of course, you know, many businesses, and especially here in Nairobi, were forced to close down on Monday. And that is what you call a lost business. And that's why I was asking you, when you look at, you know, now we had Tuesday, Wednesday, today is Thursday. As the business community, have you managed to recover fully or go back to what we call the post-mass demonstrations?
Well, to be frank, we've not been able to recover fully or to go back to where we were. And it's gradually picking up. By tomorrow, I believe we will have restored back the foot traffic and the business volumes. But all said and done, peace should prevail. And I'm happy for the bishops that have offered to mediate and have the two protagonists sit down and talk together. Yes.
Of course, the business is, you're saying, is you know, from tomorrow. That's when you expected business to recover fully to pre-mass demonstrations. But we also have to be alive to the fact that you know, the Azimio Umoja has also called for more demonstrations on Monday and Thursday next week. How would these make the economy to look like and business at large?
Now, if the mandamano in quotes are going to be for the long haul, it's definitely going to affect our business because there are business deals that take long to complete. For example, investors who are planning to invest billions, they just don't wake up and invest overnight. They do a lot of research. It's a process. And if the environment, the peace within the city is not there, they will hold those transactions, those investments, or even pull out or cancel them. It also applies with the tourism industry because you cannot book Masai Mara for one night then go back to Europe. It's a long holiday. And therefore, those tourists who are set to visit and they see that the mandamano are going to take place for a long period, they are definitely also going to cancel the bookings. And therefore, by and large, the economy is going to be affected. Yes.
If the mandamanos or mass demonstrations are sustained, which sectors of the economy are likely to be the biggest casualties?
The biggest casualties will be tourism. The Nairobi Stock Exchange, where most of the investments are made by foreigners. And any investment that relies on logistics or transport, because once the transport corridor is disrupted, that free flow of goods and services are also going to be affected. So those are the key major areas that are going to be hard hit for the first few days. Yes.
And let's even talk about tourism that you have really talked about. It is the third biggest forex exchange earner for the country. Last year, the earnings were in the excess of 100 billion shillings. And we know that it's a highly fluid kind of an industry that relies on, number one, the optics, number two, the sentiment. So we're likely to see hotels, cancellations, flight bookings, cancellations, and so much. And so, what will happen to the industry, to this industry going forward?
Well, the hotel industry is very fluid, and it's affected by such scenarios that are happening currently. And it's also very competitive because there are other destinations that compete to the Kenyan tourism destinations. And therefore, if there's a small disruption, that market, the Kenyan business, the Kenyan tourists or the tourist visitors, they might opt for those other tourist destinations within the region. That is Tanzania, Rwanda, where there is a lot of peace prevailing. And therefore, we need to have leaders who are statesmen, who can now put Kenya first and put their personal problems aside and solve the issue. Yes.
I saw something that was posted by Mohammed Hersi. He's a chairperson of Kenya Hotel Keepers Association, and that was on Monday, where he sent a clip of thousands of tourists at Mombasa International Airport fleeing to Tanzania and Zanzibar, and he said that was the quiet happenings in Mombasa, and there has been a lot of cancellations. What should we do, I mean, as a country, when we see those kind of images of visitors who are on a long-haul holiday in Kenya now, cancelling their bookings and transferring the bookings to Tanzania?
The first thing we should do as Kenyans is to support any peace-loving Kenyan or any person who is offering to mediate the two protagonists. And we should discourage any person who is saying that there should be no discussion. Well, it should not be called handshake, but they can have lunch. The two protagonists can have lunch. They can have coffee. They can have supper or dinner and discuss on how to put the temperatures down so that now all Kenyans can benefit.
All Kenyans can benefit. The other sector that is likely to feel the impact of this is, of course, the transport industry. And we saw the kind of disruptions that happened on Monday where trucks were grounded, trains were also grounded. And what is going to happen if this situation persists?
It's true, the logistics and transport segment is very easily disrupted because we have yet to come up with bypasses that can overpass or bypass major towns. And therefore, maybe what I can advise the transporters or people who are transporting goods to maybe transport those goods in the evening when the activities or the mandamanos are not happening. So that, because mandamanos have a time frame, they're supposed to happen between 8 and 6 during the day. And therefore, when it's at night, they can transport their goods and services to various consumers, to the airports, to the port. And therefore, that would be a better alternative for them.
And definitely, I mean, this is also going to have a major impact on us as a country because, look, for the last 15 years, we've been trying to build a 24-hour economy, and that's why, there has been significant investment in highways and byways, bypasses, railway systems, ports and airports, so that people can continue to transact even at night. But now, then we are going to resort to then transacting during the nighttime alone, and we know for sure that human beings are more productive during daytime. Then what are we doing to ourselves as an economy?
Well, we can put that to, or rather we can blame ourselves for the poor planning and lack of implementation of the 24-hour economy. But all said and done, the structures are already there, because if you look at how a 24-hour economy operates, it needs supportive infrastructure like roads. There is now enough lighting in our streets and highways, and there is enough security, and therefore the county governments need to encourage the 24-hour economy so that maybe people like hawkers can be encouraged to sell in the evening. Restaurants, hotels, various services should be available at night, and therefore it will take our country very far in terms of income, tax generation, employment opportunities, and the creation of continuous and seamless service delivery to any person who wants a service, whether day or night. That would be a very big plus to the Kenyan economy. Yes.
Oh, well, if you're just joining us, we're just looking at the Kenya economy, bearing in mind that it has been a challenging week, and it's likely to be a challenging week going forward with the call for mass actions by the Azimio la Umoja next week. And we're just looking at what exactly happened in the week, the impact this is likely to have on the Kenyan economy, and the long-term impact of this, and what is the way forward. Jijenge CEO Peter Mashari is in studio with us. He's trying to break down for us the situation, and we also would want to hear from you. At O'Brien Kimani is my Twitter handle. At KBC Channel 1 is our official Twitter handle. Please get down there, send us your feelings, send us your questions, and of course your comments. And who knows, you may end up being mentioned right here live on KBC. Let's go back to the conversation. I mean, is there any way that we can have these mass demonstrations and at the same time have the economy going on, or have economic activities going on? And somehow we saw this in South Africa on Monday. They also had a national shutdown. People are expecting that there will be riots, there will be chaos, but somehow the people down there, ended up surprising us. The shutdown was largely successful, but peaceful at the same time. Is it possible for us to have our demonstrations peaceful while at the same time our economic activities are going on?
Yes, we can have peaceful mass demonstrations, because if you compare the meetings for Azimio before the mass demonstrations, they were all peaceful. Because I remember the Right Honorable former Prime Minister had meetings at Jivajin Gardens, and there was peace. So we need to find out who provokes the riots, who provokes the violence, and most likely that buck might stop with the training of our police forces, because previously, before the mass demonstrations, peace prevailed. All the meetings the Azimio coalition called were peaceful. How is it now that when they are calling for these mass demonstrations, there's some violence? And I believe we can hold peaceful mass demonstrations like South Africa, like any other country, even in Europe. Yes.
It's possible.
It's possible, yes.
So, I mean, how then do we train our people to learn to appreciate what the role economic activities play in our economy, and at the same time, to make people exercise their constitutional rights of freedom of expression and freedom of association?
Well, I think it's a matter of having a clear-cut procedures and channels of ventilating. Because if somebody wants to present, if the mass protesters want to present a protest note to somebody, either they can delegate they can identify who should receive, or they should come up with an office to be receiving those protest notes, so that there are no other issues after that. Because once you present your papers, that's it. You walk back home. And there will be no other people in the streets of Nairobi. Yes.
Is there any way that, our security agencies can ensure that, people are going on with their activities, with their business and economic activities, and at the same time, those who are protesting are doing so and respecting those who are not protesting?
Well, that's a very tough question because it calls for a lot of personal discipline on the side of the protesters, and at times, just as much as security will be provided, there will be a few rotted apples here and there who might want to snatch something from an innocent passers-by. And therefore, it calls for enough police escort, police security, so that as the protesters walk through identified lanes, identified routes, there's some decency, there's some discipline on all the protesters.
If you're just joining us, the conversation that we're having in studio is the mass demonstrations that were there on Monday, the kind of impact they had on our economy, and if this is sustained, what is likely to happen to the economy. And I want to take you back to the year 2018 when we had similar mass demonstrations, and back then it was reported that for that duration of time, which was about 3 or 4 months, the economy lost more than 30 billion shillings. That was in 2018. The question is, can we afford to lose the same this time around? And bearing in mind that the economy is coming out of a very, very difficult path. The drought situation has exacerbated an already dire situation. The agriculture sector, which supports about 25% of Kenya's economy, has really undergone through a rough patch. And growth in that sector is likely to be depressed because of low productivity. And so the question is, how much more can the economy hold? And what should we do to ensure that, yes, the rights of people to demonstrate peacefully is upheld, and yes, the right of other people to continue with their economic activities is also upheld? And the other question is, can the two exist together? We have seen it work elsewhere. Right now, France is undergoing through major protests because of the war in Ukraine. Majority of the people are opposing the war in Ukraine, and also some people are opposing plans to increase the age of pensions or pensioners. And at the same time, the economic activities around Paris and major cities, is still going on. Can we borrow a lead from them, how they're conducting themselves? And that is a question that we need to ask ourselves, and we need to find a solution. But for now, we just want to take you to Uasin Gishu County. The University of Eldoret is celebrating 10 years since it was awarded a university charter. We just want to go there because Wycliffe Okech is on location, is about to brief us on how the celebrations are going down. Wycliffe, if you can hear me, give us an overview of what's happening down there in Eldoret, in the University of Eldoret.
Well, a very good morning to you, O'Brien Kimani, back in Nairobi. And of course, like you mentioned, we are coming to you live from Uasin Gishu County, specifically the University of Eldoret. This being the 23rd of March 2023. It is an important day here in this institution. Actually, they are celebrating 10 years since they were awarded a university charter. I remember before being awarded charter back in 2013, this institution used to be a subsidiary or a branch of the Moi University. But then the later President Mwai Kibaki awarded this university charter to make it fully fledged university, and they are now celebrating 10 years since that move. And actually, to mark this that milestone, actually they have been holding various activities from 18th all through, and these activities will run all through to 24th. That is tomorrow. And this today being the gist of all this celebration. It is today's the creme de la creme, the climax of the celebrations. It is an open day here, and talk about an open day. there are so many stands here for exhibitions. The students here showcasing various innovations that they have been able to adopt throughout their stay in this university, actually. And just on that, the theme for the celebration here is 10 years of knowledge and innovation, 10 years of charting out graduates and also making various pieces of innovation. And at that point, O'Brien, I'll just engage a few of the people here. There are so many stands here, different faculties and schools displaying various pieces of innovation. But then I'm so interested actually in agriculture and of course climate change. You see, those are very critical aspects at the moment when the country, and not the country alone, but the world over, is experiencing some sort of climate change. And the students here, they believe they have the solutions to such challenges. And on that note, if my colleague behind this lens, Martin Kivut, can just basically bring us on set along with the students here to show us exactly what they have here. If you can basically show this, Martin, I'm going to engage one of the students here. Brother, if you can just talk to us, tell us what are you displaying here and which year are you? I'm going to introduce yourself in terms of your name, which year are you in this university, and what are you showcasing today?
So my names are Ian. All right, thank you. Ian Onsare is my name. Agriculture Economics Department we are. We are here showcasing about climate smart farm. We also have seed pelleting technique that we have here, and also the department on how we can actually, as agriculture economists, share the knowledge to the farmers out there. And in that end, we also have the agribusiness side. So today we are here to share every detail on how we can help farmers out there solve their solutions. Yes.
Talk to us about this climate smart farm. Is it a model, and what are the components?
All right. I don't work alone. As I said, I'm an agriculture economist. We have an extensionist here. He's called Bavon. He will explain the model and then we proceed on. He's my colleague, Jackson. So,
all right. Just briefly tell us what this model is and what are the components.
Okay, climate smart farm agriculture. This is an integrated approach to just attack the cropland and just to manage the livestock and crop produce. So the objectives of this climate smart farm is just to increase productivity. Because of the growing population, people are becoming many. That 1 acre you have, how can you utilize it? So this is just like a model. Our farm is majorly fenced by gravelia. We just prefer it because it has shallow root system, which does not bring any effect to the adjacent crop. And there far end, we have the fruit orchards. You subdivide your plots into buttocks, your land into buttocks, and then this way we have the bananas. We also have our napier grass here, and these are majorly where our house is located at the central place. This is the napier grass for feeding our cattle. We have a manure where we collect manure from the chicken, poultry, goats. We just use it to produce our crops. At this far end, we have the whole lot. This is where the beehives are located. It contains trees which has flowers, and bees majorly food, they take just flowers. And we have a water pan here for collecting water during rainy season to preserve and use it during droughts. This water pan, this water, we just use it to just irrigate our crops, and the bees, because they are living things, they just take water. At the far end, we have maize and beans. Maize and beans, a farmer can sell at least to get an income. And basically, we know maize and beans, they are for human consumption. And this is how you can utilize your land. That is now climate smart agriculture. My name is Bolvin, a first year University of Eldoret. Thank you.
Bolvin, this model here, does it refer to a commercial piece of land or other agriculture, or it is for consumption?
Okay, basically, it is for consumption, just to increase productivity, to work at home just for consumption. But if much produce is there, you can sell to get an income. Yeah.
Tell me, there is the concept of rainfed agriculture and also irrigated agriculture. Now this model here, does it rely on rain or it is irrigated as well?
Okay. It is irrigated, and as well, it also relies on rain. It majorly is suitable in high rainfall areas. Yeah.
For the high rainfall areas. And that water pan you've indicated there, is it able to irrigate all the, because I can see what you're promoting here is a crop diversification, in the sense that when one crop fails, the other one can also make, and the farmer can actually, doesn't run at a loss at the end of it all. Now this water pan here, is it able to irrigate all the crops here?
Yeah, it can be able because the water pan is somehow deep. Depending on the capital availability of the farmer, he or she might have built it to a larger capacity. So it might irrigate the crops like vegetables, fruits. Yeah.
Thank you. Let me get back to you. I can see you have so many variety of seeds here. Which are they, and are they resistant to drought?
Yes. So what we have here is actually a modeling. What we are doing here is what we call the seed palleting technique. I don't work alone. As I said, agriculture economist is a social scientist, whereby we are trying to engage all the able details of agriculture to actually put it in place. So as you can see here, there is a machine there that is operated by Mr. Moses that we can actually do. And what we do here, seed pelleting, is a technique just to proceed on to economize the seed usage in the farm out there. So we are trying to increase the seed size so that the farmer can proceed on to actually get an economic view on how he can proceed on to place the seed in the hole. So in this case, we are trying to fuse the seeds, because vegetable seeds have very small seeds. So we are trying to increase their diameter so that the farmer, once he goes to place in the hole, it can be very, very much economical on his end. So in that case, I'll refer Mr. Moses if you can take us through the palleting technique. As the agriculture economist, we also deal with the information side, whereby we have created a platform as students. We have innovated a platform where farmers can proceed on to get the right details on how they can actually proceed on to get solutions to the challenges they are facing in the farm. You see, we are moving in the we are moving in the information stage, whereby information is the currency. And if information is currency, we want to get farmers the right information so that they can be able to increase and commercialize their agriculture. That is Ian for their student agriculture economists.
Now this information website, is it open for everyone, and how do people access it?
Sure. Now, because we're in the information stage, you see, if you want to find an information right now, you go on Twitter or Facebook, or even if you want to find information about the government, you can go to KBC. The same case, we are creating a platform, and this is our website, www.farmwork.co.ke. Every farmer can access it. If you're in Lodwar, Kisumu, every place, you can access that and actually get the right information. A farmer may be actually passing through a challenge. Maybe his livestock is he's having a challenge with his livestock. Just take a picture, go to the website. It's a free website available for everyone and all cost. So in this case, can go out there and get the right information at that platform. That's what we have done in agriculture economics.
And you seem so passionate about agriculture. And talking right now, we are being told actually by the government, especially the minister, the cabinet secretary for ICT and digital economy, that the old days when the youth actually relied on white collar jobs, now that phase is gone, and now we should embrace actually the smart way of living. Talk about the digital economy and also smart agriculture. Now this website, are there maybe youth you've incorporated into the program?
Yes, there are youth that we have incorporated. What you're actually doing here is awareness. We have already set out the website, has been there for about 5 years. So we are trying to proceed on to create awareness with the youth. Why? Because we have realized, even if Kenya, we are saying we have moved to the information age, not every farmer has that smartphone. There are farmers that have actually Kadude. And in this case, we are trying to reach the youth, because in every homestead, we cannot lack any youth that has no smartphone. So in this case, if you have a smartphone, you can proceed on to use that smartphone to get the information and share it with the farmer. And there is a question that one of the students came here and asked. I have a smartphone, I can go to my village out there. My village people don't have that smartphone. He can proceed on to become a link by sharing the details here, because immediately he can access that platform in his phone. He can proceed on to get the right knowledge, even regardless of wherever he is and whatever field that he is actually. So in this case, it has proceeded on to create employment in this person, because the farmers will be very much happy to actually get that right information from this young man. Yes.
Thank you so much. That is very noble kind of invention here, and we believe actually the youth will be able to borrow your idea and also make the right move in terms of building themselves some capital and also earning themselves a living. Well, O'Brien, that is a model of the climate smart farm. The students there is basically explaining to us what we really have, especially to the youth, if they can adopt a smart agriculture to build themselves a capital and also make themselves some sort of livelihood. Well, there are so many stands here, different students exhibiting different pieces of innovation in line with the theme of the celebration here being 10 years of knowledge and innovation. And we will continue visiting different stands and getting to know about the pieces of innovation they are exhibiting here. It is open day, like I mentioned. I can see so many students from different schools actually being brought here to learn a few things being innovated by the students here at the University of Eldoret, and definitely we'll compile that comprehensively in our subsequent bulletins. And definitely being the open day, there are also guests invited to grace this important occasion here, and we expect the leadership of the county government of Uasin Gishu actually being led by the Governor Jonathan B. And also we expect a delegation from the Ministry of Education to grace this occasion, and all that will compile speeches from those guest speakers, and all this will come to our viewers later on in the subsequent bulletins. For now, let me just hand it back to you so that we can continue with the coverage. O'Brien.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Weekly, for joining us live from Eldoret, University of Eldoret, and of course giving us an update on what the university is doing to innovate around our agriculture sector, and of course to ensure the mass deployment of a smart agriculture. And of course this topic is very critical because it is coming at a time when the onset of the March to May rain has already started, and of course we're coming from a highly debilitating drought. And the beauty of it is that most parts of our country now has started to receive rainfall, and the question is, what do we do with this rain? That is a question that we need to ask ourselves. Otherwise, we're likely to go back into that drought cycle. Well, we are back in the studio, and of course, our conversation this morning revolves around the economic impact of the mass demonstrations. And I want to take you back on Monday when there was widespread demonstrations in a number of counties, and one of them being Nairobi, which was the most affected, in Kisumu, in Migori, and in a number of counties. And we know that the government said that the economy lost about 2 billion shillings that day because there was mass closure of businesses, and of course there was little business activity that was taking place. And the unfortunate thing is that the organizers of the mass demonstrations, they have announced that starting next week, Monday and Thursday will be Mandamano days. And the question that we're asking ourselves is, what are these doing to our economy? And can we demonstrate at the same time we allow people to continue with their economic as well as business activities? Jijenge Credit CEO Peter Masharia is in studio. He has been helping us to go around this interesting topic, and let's now continue. As I was telling you, I mean, there was that clip of tourists, at the Mombasa International Airport leaving for Tanzania, Zanzibar. Of course, it takes time, before you can build up a goodwill image, if I'm allowed to say so, on the international market. And if you ask so many of those tourists, they'll still tell you that Kenya is still not a safe destination at this point. And this is likely to drag on for months. How do we ensure that even as we go on with our protest, with our picketings, we don't tarnish the image of this country, the reputation of this country?
Well, thank you, Brian. I think the first thing that I had even said earlier is that the two main protagonists need to be statesmen and have coffee, dinner, or some tea. And once they have it, they should be able to itemize their issues that can be resolved immediately. medium-term issues and long-term issues. And from that meeting, they should take very many photos, smiling and in different positions. And I can assure you, those demonstrations you're seeing and those tourists that you're seeing that are taking off to other different destinations will stop going. These issues that foreign countries are saying that Kenya is unsafe, they will stop, they will cease. And Kenya will be rated as the best and safest place. And after that, there should be continuous dialogue. We need to encourage the church to mediate, to be problem solvers and support the country so that it is for the good of everyone that peace prevails. Yeah.
And I like the fact that you're talking about sitting down and having a cup of tea, and Kenya being a leader of tea production in the world. Actually, we are number 3. It means that we have an abundance of tea in this country, and the beauty about tea is that people can decide to set aside their differences and agree to work together. Yes, differences can exist, but of course there is a way that people can agree to work together despite their differences. The other thing that we also need to be wary of is the fact that the country has been undergoing through a serious dollar shortage or foreign exchange shortage, and still talking about the tourism industry, it is one of the 3 main foreign exchange earners in this country. And last year, we saw the industry earning about $2 billion plus US dollars. For the Kenyan economy, the target this year is to drive this number to about $3 billion. Are we likely to hit these targets? If the mass demonstrations are sustained?
Well, I know the people in charge of the foreign currency management are not sleeping. They are burning the midnight oil. That is CBK and Treasury. And I believe, and I know they are up to task. And if you listen to the news yesterday, there was a change in the way we purchase fuel. Because initially, the country was purchasing crude oil in dollars. But now they've talked to different countries, I think Dubai,
UAE and Saudi Arabia.
Exactly. So it will be a country-to-country payment. Therefore, we'll be paying the fuel in Kenya shillings. And therefore, all those dollars that are being channeled out will cease being channeled out by end of this month.
Which was about $500 million US dollars.
Yes, every month. And therefore, that 500 million will be now within the country. And then another good point is that we will not be paying fuel upfront. It will be paid, I think they will be getting
a period of 6 months.
Yeah, 6 months credit period, which is very good, very encouraging and a very good strategy. And therefore, I think now the issue of dollar shortage will be a thing of the past.
And so this is likely to ease, the pressure that the Kenya shilling has been having in the last couple of years. Let's also look at something else that we were discussing here, and this is the issue of logistics and transport. And focusing on agriculture and the Kenya's horticulture industry is also one of the biggest foreign exchange earner. When transport is disrupted, when you don't have cargo being transported to the port of Mombasa, to the cargo to Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, this is of course having also another major impact on our exports. And is there any way that as a country that we can ensure that even as we demonstrate, transporters are being allowed to transport their products?
Yes, I give the alternative of transporting those perishable goods or export goods in the evening. And they just need to make an arrangement with the cargo center at the airport and ensure that their staff and most of the cargo planes leave later in the night after they receive all the goods from up country. So during the day when there are demonstrations, there's no disruption of that transport corridor. And that one will also help a lot in the issue of export, which supports our balance of payments. Yes, and that flow of goods and services will really help. The other proposal is also to have the Minister of Foreign Affairs talk to the governments that might be issuing travel advisories, because tourists also listen to their home countries so much. So we need to mitigate that and tell those embassies that we are peaceful. Whatever demonstrations are happening are peaceful. Police will provide security, and businesses will run normally. So that at least those tourists can feel at home and relax.
And from Monday's learning curve, we clearly know that Nairobi and Kenya's third largest city in the name of Kisumu were the biggest or were the most affected by these mass demonstrations. What do we need to do to defray, that kind of tension, that kind of disruptions? Because yes, at the end of the day, people can argue that it is their constitutional rights, to congregate, to associate, and of course to express themselves. But on the other hand, it is also the constitutional rights of business people, traders, and people to continue with their business activities. So how do we strike this balance as a country?
Well, all I know is that the freedom of demonstration ends when it infringes on the other person's freedom. And therefore, my proposal or my strategy or my advice to the people who are protesting is, and also the people who are being protested to, if, for example, they are going to take a memoranda to a certain office, can that office have a customer service desk where such a memoranda is received and delivered? Because I believe once that proposal or letter or whatever they want to deliver has been delivered, those people have no other business. They will just walk home and sleep. So there should be no hide and seek game. If at all there's a letter that is supposed to be delivered somewhere, receive it. A plain letter has no harm. You just receive, read, and let's learn on the areas that you're able to, the weak areas or the gray areas or our weak points. We should now learn from those kind of criticism.
Very good.
Yes.
Well, if you're just joining us, we're coming to you live from Broadcasting House, and this is a conversation around the economy and the impact of mass demonstrations on Kenya's economy. We are talking to Jijenge Credit Chief Executive Officer Peter Masharia, who is joining us here. We're taking a short break, and thereafter we'll be back with more conversations. Stay right here.
He used to say that was the happiest day of his life. That hiyo siku, he found a friend and a brother.
Kuna kitu nimekuwa nikitaka kukuambia for a while.
Tutasimama tisti kwa ajili ya dunia yetu, familia zetu
na marafiki wetu, sio?
Nini huko shule saa hizi?
Basi ulofukuzwa na mama wa huko.
Unaniambia sababu naitisha kuku mara 3 kwa saa nyingine kwa wiki, kwa mwezi. So it is us parents who are feeding you. See?
No, you're not feeding us. We are helping your kids to know how to cook.
Senior chief. Hey, fuka. Can see.
Kwa shule inaenda wapi? Hiyo kuku akikuja kwa shuleni, mwalimu anachukua ile kuku mtoto. Inashika, inasomesha mtoto.
Hata kucha tunatengenezanga nazo necklace.
Hayo yote mnachukua.
Kucha za kuku. Na manyoya ya kuku pia tunatengenezanga nayo pilo.
Kuna bilibili hapa ni wewe amechapa mwalimu sababu ya kutuma mtoto wako jumbani.
Ambia walete ng'ombe mheshimiwa. Itakuwa ni mzuri.
Watoto waambiwa walete ng'ombe.
Vitu kuku mheshimiwa.
Look, Jenny, you're really missing a point here.
What point?
The point is, they all said, whoever is my girlfriend is so lucky. And you're so...
Do you have a good rest last night? You left the office very late, right?
Not late.
Hey, catch the elevator. Let's go, hurry.
Hey, wait a minute, would you?
Remember you once told me you just wanted her to be happy? Is that still what you want now? We broke up.
But you liked him so much before. Why do you want to break up? Did he do something wrong or hurt you?
No reason.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we are live from Broadcasting House, and of course the conversation this morning that we have been having in the last 40 minutes or so is the cost of mass demonstrations to the economy and how the economy is likely to bear the impact of this in the long term. And the question also is, what do we need to do to ameliorate the situation? And Peter Masharia is proposing that we need to have a cup of tea together so that we can resolve our differences. Can a cup of tea work? Definitely it can. And we know for sure that Kenya does have abundance of tea leaves. So it's possible for us to sit down over a cup of tea and converse our differences. We continue with the conversation for the next 10 or so minutes. And thereafter, we shall be winding up to look at Kenya's health sector. Well, stay right here. And Masharia, the other thing that we need also to ask ourselves is, have we learned from history? I mean, look, the 2007 post-election violence, it touches that it is very easy for things to give in, and it's very easy for a country to plunge into chaos and into mayhem where human beings can turn against each other. So what do we need to do as a country to ensure that we don't get to that treacherous path?
Thank you. The first thing is to look at history and compare what and look at also the historical performance of or historical path that other countries went through. Mm-hmm. If you look at Egypt, the Arab Spring, it was sparked off by one protester. Mm-hmm. And every hell broke loose. Mm-hmm. And therefore, if you also look at the local Kenyan scenario, mm-hmm. in the past cases where we had mass demonstrations, mm-hmm. they started like this and then ended up becoming very tribal. Mm-hmm. Therefore, our leaders should take a step back and shed off any negative energy, negative advice, and bite the bullet, stop chest up thumping, and sit down and have tea, lunch, supper, dinner, or whatever. It should not be called handshake, because that is most people want to relate it to handshake. No, it should not be handshake. It should be a meetup, a meeting. Mm-hmm. between two leaders who I believe can sit down and chart a common course for the betterment of this country and the success of our country. Yes.
In the past, we have seen, the private sector, which you represent, becoming very strong and, more involved in political matters where at some point they're even becoming mediators. What is the role of the Kenya's private sector in ensuring that, there is harmony, there is peace, there is economic development in this country?
Well, when there are mass demonstrations, the person who is hard hit is the private sector, the SMEs, mama mbogas, and even the corporates. And therefore, they usually take up the first initiative to try and mediate. And a good example of a good, well-organized private sector is KEPSA, which is very organized, has good structures, and is well respected within the government circles. I believe they can team up with the church and help mediate and come up with a very good solution that is long-lasting, that will benefit all Kenyans, not sections of Kenyans, but will take this country to higher levels and more respect internationally. Yes.
Do you think this is happening, probably maybe behind the scenes?
I believe, well, I don't know, I don't have facts, but I believe and hope that initiative has already been started. I saw in yesterday's press the Catholic bishops offering to mediate. And I also believe, apart from those local organizations, I believe our international partners cannot let Kenya fail. And therefore they're also engaging the two coalitions so that there is peace and peace prevails. Yes.
But of course, the onus is on us as Kenyans, to ensure that we maintain peace, because Kenya is more dear to us than to anybody else, and it behoves us as a country to maintain peace, and we do not have to wait for anybody else to come and lecture us or train us on how to maintain peace. We are Kenyans, and Kenya should be our business. It should be the business of all of us to ensure that there is harmony, there is development, there is peace, there is cohesion, there is coexistence in our day-to-day life. And it calls upon each and every one of us to ensure that as a country that is maintained. Because as we always say, we only have one Kenya. There is no Kenya B, there is no Kenya C. Well, before we wind up this conversation and before I let Macharia go, when you look at your crystal ball, I want to believe that you have one. What is it telling you? How would this situation look like in the next 3-4 months?
Well, I want to be optimistic and say that and hope and pray that this situation will not boil over to several months. And by next week, or even before Monday, the two major coalition partners will have sat down, will have had lunch or dinner or coffee, and agreed on a good way to chat, to help Kenya move forward.
Very good.
Yes.
And what is your message to the people that are watching you this morning?
Let's be hopeful. I know Kenyans are resilient. Let's keep praying for our country, for our leaders, so that they can be, they can have wisdom, they can be true statesmen, and Kenya is our country. Yes,
Kenya is our country. Well, that is the message from Peter Macharia, the CEO of Jijenge Credit, who has been with us since around 10:15, and of course are helping us share with us his insight on what should be the way forward to ensure that the economy doesn't suffer and we move together as a nation. And of course, you have heard it from him. Well, as we say, the responsibility of building Kenya rests on all of us, not our political leaders, not only our religious leaders. It is upon us as a citizenry. My name is O'Brien Kimani. This is BizCheck. We're taking a short break, and thereafter we are coming back, and of course we want to look at the cost of healthcare in Kenya. Well, I was just going through a report that was released sometimes in 2019, and it was saying that about 1 million Kenyans slide back into poverty because of high cost of health care. Our investment is still wanting. What is the way forward? I'll be joined by a healthcare expert. He has an idea or two on how this should be handled. This is Biz Check. Stay right here.
Look, Jenny, you're really missing a point here.
What point?
The point is, they all said, whoever is my girlfriend is so lucky. And you're so...
Do you have a good rest last night? You left the office very late, right?
Not late.
Hey, catch the elevator.
Good.
Let's go, hurry.
Hey, wait a minute, would you?
Remember you once told me you just wanted her to be happy? Is that still what you want now? We broke up.
But you liked him so much before. Why do you want to break up? Did he do something wrong or hurt you?
No reason.
I told you nobody paid me. I tried to convince them, but nobody wanted to be convinced.
Okay then, where are the other sheets? Ziko wapi?
Kwani unasikia na makwapa ama unasikia na wapi? I told you Mr. Flitty took it.
Sikia, my friend, you will pay me, utanilipa nasikia? Basi wacha tufanye hivi. 50-50.
Okay, sawa, haina shida.
Okay, and can you take a photo?
My phone doesn't have a good camera.
Okay, then let me just do this, Let me take it, and I will copy my piece of paper on my diary.
Okay, faster.
That's the end of our drama movie.
Allah anatuambia ndani ya kitabu chake kitukufu, enyi ambao mlioamini nimewafaradhishieni funga.
Yani enyi mlioamini funga ya Ramadhan imefaradhishwa juu yenu kama ilivyofaradhishwa katika wale ambao waliwatangulia, ili muweze kumcha Mwenyezi Mungu Subhanahu wa Ta'ala.
I will never let go. I will never let you.
At KBC Channel 1, we put people at the heart of events with our captivating weekly news features. Every day, we are breaking new grounds with informative, entertaining, and inspiring human interest stories. On Mondays, 9 p.m., we have The Cabinets. Tuesday, 9 p.m., we get inside the barracks for military tales. We delve in the world of cinemas and theater each Wednesday night. For the young and industrious, make a date with us every Thursday at 9 p.m. Fridays are dedicated for my culture. On Saturdays, we go back in time for history in perspective. And on Sundays, we get to know the process of how things are done and made. KBC Channel 1 News features a whole lot of wonderful viewing experience.
And the days when we were in primary school, when we used to be told, asiyefunzwa na mamaye hufunzwa na ulimwengu. Ulimwengu mwenyewe mafundishowe machungu.
I tell you, Judy, you've just taken me back to mgeni kumpokea kumbe.
There's a lot of just this Sherry, yes. You are always so dire. You are always just warning about dire consequences. As you fools are like you are saying, na mamake, atafunzwa na maandamano, and other things.
Very good. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're watching BizCheck live from Broadcasting House. Our conversation this morning, we started with the state of our economy in the face of the enduring mass demonstrations. And time now to focus and, of course, now talk about another very critical and very important issue that determines the health of us all, and that is the cost of our health care. You see, I was going through a report by United States AIDS International, and they did a study where they discovered that about 1.2 million people slid into poverty every year because of what we call out-of-pocket expenses on health care. When you look at the Abuja Declaration on Health, it talks about increasing the annual budgetary allocation to the healthcare sector to about 15%. But in Kenya, we're doing about 7 to 8%. And so the question is, what is the way forward? Those are some of the issues that we want to tackle this morning. Joining us is Imran Osman. He's a Chief Executive Officer of Avenue Group, which is a healthcare group, and he's joining us so that he can help us with this discussion. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Imran.
Pleasure.
And of course, we know that we are going to benefit immensely from your input. But you're telling me that there's something you would want to say in regard to the mandamus that are happening, that happened on Monday and that are projected to happen on Monday and Thursday next week. What did you want to say?
Well, I must say it's a pleasure to be here, and picking up on the topic that you've just concluded, I think it affects every one of us, every Kenyan who is hardworking, earning, and also those who are unemployed. If I reflect on what happened in 2007, I remember being in Kisumu during that time with another healthcare facility, and we had to really mobilize people and get them into areas where we were able to evacuate. Looking at Monday, as Avenue Healthcare and its hospitals across the country with 15 clinics and 3 hospitals in 6 counties, we saw a drop in patient flow by 500 patients. Now, those are 500 patients who would have otherwise come to the hospital to seek treatment and opted not to come to the hospital, perhaps due to access or perhaps due to fear of getting out. So the mandamano are affecting even access to healthcare, and I hope and pray that we see some sense and conciliatory approach to this in good time. Yeah.
If you are in a position to deal with this issue, how would you deal with it?
No, our previous guest talked about a cup of tea, and I think chai in Kenya is a popular thing, and I'm a Kenyan by birth and also the 4th generation, so I'm Kenyan as you get. But a cup of tea makes a huge difference in talking and diffusing situations, in dialoguing. So I would approach it with dialogue, within the law, but with dialogue, and make sure that we are able to get the leaders to speak and find solutions that benefit Kenyans, and I think it is within their reach to do that.
Very good. Yeah. Well, let's hope they're listening, and of course they'll heed your advice and of course the advice of the previous guests. Let's now get into the topic of the day. I want you to give us a general overview of Kenya's health sector right now.
So, good question. Kenyans, the health sector is actually provided for or catered for by the government, who is the sole owner of this, and it's their obligation. The government should provide, as part of constitution, healthcare, good healthcare services. However, we also have private hospitals that actually complement the government in its services through PPP and also through independent setups across the country. It is underserved, healthcare. We believe it is grossly underserved. Access and affordability is a big issue, and thereby the universal health is an important topic to discuss as we go forward.
When you say that it is grossly underserved, what exactly do you mean?
So when you go to the urban areas, there are many hospitals, many clinics. However, the spectrum to which they serve is something that we must look at and compare to the disease pattern. I was reading one of the studies, and it showed that currently Kenya in the universal health coverage is actually covered to 50%. We hope to go to 60% of the health disease burden that Kenyans face, and we are just forecasting that we'll be able to cover only 60%. So it's important. 60% of what
will happen to the rest 40%?
So that's the question, and it's not just about accessibility. Universal healthcare by definition is to provide safe, effective, quality and essential healthcare. But that doesn't just include visiting the hospital or seeing a doctor or getting a healthcare worker to see you, but it includes affordability. It extends to essential medicines and vaccines. And I heard you say in your opening remarks that we are just one hospital admission away from poverty. So universal healthcare, by virtue, I think it's misunderstood, in my opinion. It's always assumed that it's going to be a free healthcare provision, but it's not necessarily free. It's supposed to be keep you away from poverty, but still access healthcare and healthcare services. And it doesn't mean that you only get branded medicine. It is essential medication. It is what makes a difference and attacks the disease and helps you get better.
You see, when you look at Vision 2030, it talks about ensuring there is universal health coverage by the year 2030. We are talking about 8 years from now. And when you look at what we have managed to do in the last, let me talk about 15 years since the Vision 2030 was launched. And you have put it, I mean, the health coverage today is about 53%. And so we have 47% who are outside this bracket. And this is what you call the critical mass, because they are poor of the poor. Are we likely to achieve this universal health coverage that we always talk about?
I would think if we did some things correctly, we can. And I think the government has put in great effort towards this. Devolution was one very key milestone that happened, and with the devolution, I think what we have seen is, for example, if I look at my stats, in Bomet County, for example, we had 3 hospitals, and now we have 8 facilities. We have equipment in major hospitals across the country that were under lease, and they are still there, and they can be revived. We have seen promotion of health, take center stage. Mother and child healthcare is something else that we have been seeing the government focusing on. So I think we're on the right track. We just lost momentum here and there, but there are opportunities that we can leverage on and partner with even private facilities, even non-governmental facilities that actually would be able to bridge this gap.
You're talking about retweaking some things or doing some few things right, and we'll get there. What are these things that we need to get right?
So in universal health, if we dissect it, there are a couple of things that must go right. One is accessibility. Now, if you look at what the government has done, it has built a lot of roads across the country, and especially in Kisumu, if you look at it 10 years ago and now in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County, we've seen a lot of roads coming through, and that has shortened the distance from Kakamega to Kisumu, for example, Kakamega to Eldoret, for example. And this actually helps to bring access and healthcare closer to the patient. Quality is another key aspect where I think the government has invested, and private hospitals are also looking at investing. They've allowed institutions to get accredited, such as JCI, Joint Commission International. We have Safe Care. We have COSASA accreditation, which is a South African-based accreditation, and that uplifts the quality of care in the country. Then there is a safe medicine, safe practice. There is a lot of laws that have gone in to ensure that the doctors are actually providing safe healthcare, safe medicine, safe birth, safe deliveries, and so on. And there's been a lot of community health education that has happened. But how do we make this effective? We only make this effective if we are able to provide this service where it's required. So what we sometimes see is equipment that has been perhaps installed in a county government and it's underutilized. Now, how do we connect that equipment to a network of other equipment and specialists where they can access and utilize it, instead of putting that investment in a county where the prevalence of that disease may not be there. We should put it where it is and match the skills. In many areas we've seen where we have a good equipment, we have a good facility, but we have low skilled manpower, or if we have the manpower, they are not upskilled enough to cater for and take care of that equipment and use it effectively. So we just need to match the resources to where it's required. Yeah.
You see, and I like the fact that you have put it right. In the last 10 years, we have seen a major increase in terms of health coverage in the country. We have seen our hospitals, expanding their branches, and your case study. We have also seen our universities and institutions of higher learning, churning out more professionals, more doctors, more nurses, and so forth. We have also seen a number of initiatives by both the private sector as well as the government. And a case at hand is the affordable health care, which was championed by the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta. The medical equipment leasing program, which you've just talked about. And despite all these, we still have almost half of Kenyans outside the healthcare coverage. What are we not getting right?
So I'll try and venture some answers there. So one is equipment maintenance. Whereas we are installing the equipment, we need to be able to maintain that equipment and services. Equipment come with their own cost. They have downtime, they have maintenance requirement, PPM, preventive plant maintenance that are required. And we have a host of engineers, biomedical engineers, who I see are coming up quite actively to support the government in maintaining this. These biomedical engineers are supposed to be redeployed and perhaps support this. There is also a supply chain of medication that perhaps I see a lot of stockouts, and whenever a new government comes in, I see they're closing that gap. But consistency is something that is lacking. Controls is something that we should invest in. And I think maybe we should start investing in customer satisfaction, that who is our customer specifically? It is the patient and the mwananchi. At Avenue, what we have done is we are trying to bring the cost of healthcare down by creating products that are predictable. So the patient walks into a hospital and mostly they don't know what to expect, and sometimes don't even know how to prepare. Many a times we have discharges, and at the discharge point, the family says, we didn't envisage this. So we're trying to create predictive models to support and constantly communicate, and even make sure that the patient is aware where they are and how we can manage their care even better. The other thing that Avenue and maybe the government is also doing, and I'll speak for Avenue right now, we are focused on promotion of healthcare, best practice, promotion of healthy lifestyle. So what we have is a continuum of care. In Avenue, what we've done is we've created something called prepaid scheme, and the prepaid scheme is such that we are able to help you get medical attention across our network of hospitals and engage with you through chronic care programs that you don't even need to go to a hospital, where you are able to improve your lifestyle and even reverse your diabetes, for example, through obesity programs and weight loss programs that lead up to even bariatric surgeries. But with the promotion, then we provide primary healthcare, tertiary and quaternary healthcare. But where I'm going to now is home-based care. Avenue also provides home-based care, and it has been providing for the past 27 years, little known to the market. And this provides, we can discharge a patient out of the hospital to home-based care. So you don't need to spend those extra 2-3 days for something that you could have managed at home. And then we deploy nurses or patient caregivers within the inpatient facility. So what we need to do perhaps to improve healthcare coverage is prevention, promotion of healthcare, if the lifestyle improves, if we are able to prevent even people from getting to the hospital through healthy lifestyle, through healthy living, I think this will bring down the cost of healthcare to the government. As you mentioned, currently we are at the Abuja declaration, looked at 15%. But last I checked, we are roughly about 9.2. It's not something to scream about. The value has increased because the pie has increased, no doubt. But the requirement is to hit 15%. But how do we target the 15%, but also manage a healthy population so that they don't need to get to the hospital and spend that, and they are catered for through nutrition, through healthy lifestyle and so on. So that's what I would do.
There is also this other aspect, and probably maybe you should help us, how we should go about this. Because when you look at, for example, the insurance coverage within our sector, you have about 20% of Kenyans, having some form of health insurance, be it through the National Health Insurance NHIF fund.
Yeah.
Then the other being the private sector and so much. But when you look at, even statistics further, it will show you that the numbers are heavily skewed towards more wealthier counties. For example, in Nairobi, almost 50% of the population in Nairobi, they have some form of health insurance. But when you go to the poor counties, and I'll pick, for example, the county of Wajir, it's only about less than 5% of the population who have, health coverage, health insurance. And so in this kind of a skewed situation, then how do you ensure there is fairness, the resources are distributed fairly?
No, so the devolution of envisage that we can distribute equally across, and especially the disadvantaged or vulnerable communities that are marginalized for a long time, and that was inculcated in the Constitution. I think 0.5 equitable adjustments were also put into the budget allocation. But to speak to the affordability angle, I think urban centers tend to have more insurance covered patients or patients who are covered by insurance, be it private or National Hospital Insurance Fund, is because most of them have employment, and many people who are covered through private insurance are actually in the employment sector, and so are the people who are actually in the NHIF because they contribute, or they are forced to contribute through employers. And that disparity then in Wajir speaks for itself. But if you look at counties like Wajir, if I were to take that as an example, they are also underpinned issues such as a belief system. Yeah. So I'm a Muslim. It's Ramadan, and Ramadan Kareem to you.
Ramadan Kareem.
But there's also a divide in the Muslim community where the insurance product is seen to be not halal. So it's incidentally that you asked me this question, that Avenue has actually identified that as a gap, and how do we reach to that population that and their belief system and make a product that matches them. We just launched a product called Shifa Medical. Shifa Medical looks at how you contribute to your health even before you fall sick. As communities in estates, for example, let's say you are a bunch of 20 households in one estate, you come together, contribute a fund, we help you define a fund scheme, you are in charge of your fund on how you utilize it, and when an event happens, then you're ready. As Kenyans and also humans, we save to buy a house, we save to buy a car. We mainly save for education, not everyone, but we save for education for our children. But who starts saving for health? Our backup is always insurance, but for this vulnerable population and the Muslim society, they don't have a product for this. So Avenue has tried to reach private institutions, work with the government in creating these innovative products that also unlocks and demystifies healthcare as an expensive thing. Healthcare becomes unaffordable because when it hits us, it perhaps is too late because we are not going through health checks, we're not going through preventive, we're not going through health dietary, and therefore when you end up in a hospital, mostly it is very severe, and sometimes it's even too late, and therefore it hits us from a bill perspective. So NHIF envisaged that already, and it looks at creating a fund progressively and building that. And I think the idea is not novel. It's worked in other countries, and we just need to piggyback on that and make it work. Yeah.
Is it possible to have free medical services in Kenya?
To be honest, the answer is dicey. For the government, I think it is also not free. We perceive it to be free, but it is funded through some other areas. Devolution envisaged how we devolve that fund from the big pie and put it down and trickle it down. But it's still not free. Even for the county hospitals, when you go there is subsidized rates. In the referral hospitals, you still have to pay some amount. Of course, it's not equal to private, but it's subsidized heavily. But you still have to pay for that specialist. What I think we perhaps need to change the narrative and change it to become decentralized, not devolved. When you go decentralized, then you are empowering the county governments to provide healthcare, to take up that responsibility, which they already do, but you're also asking them to generate the revenue that is required to build a sustainable model. So how are those? Those who can afford. If you uplift the county government health facilities to a level where even the private patients and those who are able to go can feel comfortable through the quality, they will subsidize that and fund it. There are a lot of non-governmental organizations who are willing to give grants, and I know the government is working with many of them, including Melinda Gates Foundation and so on. But we do need to find a way of saying that healthcare is not free. It is just paid for by somebody, either by the government or by the insurance or out of pocket. Yeah.
You see, the government has a very strong grip on Kenya's health system, controlling about almost 45% of the country's health systems. Then you have, of course, the private sector, doing almost 30%, and faith-based as well as NGOs. And I like the concept that you're talking about, having a decentralized a system. But is it possible, to have a devolved, decentralized healthcare system?
Well, I don't think we can decentralize policy and disease mapping and safe management of healthcare in the country. That, I think, needs to remain at a policy level, at the central government level. But we can certainly decentralize other services, such as which is they're already doing, managing the hospitals and the healthcare facilities. But it goes beyond that, even disease mapping. So whereas when a county government prepares its budget, I'm sure they look at the disease pattern. Is that effective? So a county such as Kiambu County, the lifestyle of Kiambu residents and the Kiambu County residents and the citizens there may differ to those in Kisumu, and therefore the investment needs to match that. So yes, you can, I think, and we should be able to devolve. But like I said, we also need to build sustainable models. So the government has a monopoly in pharmaceuticals. They actually have the power of bringing the cost down through supply chain. Question is, how do we make that more efficient? How do we create savings that we can pass on to the patients? And this is what private sectors are doing. So yes, I think we can, but to some extent we'll just need to also devolve generation of revenue and hold the counties responsible for sustainable models.
It's true, the government has a strong grip, in the healthcare system in this country. Apart from, controlling the health, majority of the healthcare system in this country. Even in the pharmaceutical industry, I mean, it's the government. The government is in charge of ensuring that there are medicines in this country through the Kenya Medical Services Agency. The government has also has a strong say in the insurance industry through the National Health Insurance Fund. And so you can see the government hands in every aspect of our health industry. Is this healthy at all?
Well, to some extent, it needs to be, but there's, from a policy perspective, I think it's important that there's an oversight responsibility in all aspects, even drug management and registration. But where perhaps the private sector can actually support is how to make institutions more efficient, how to make those institutions more effective, and even non-governmental organizations, how they partner with the government is important. You mentioned mission hospitals who have stepped up and are providing this to bridge the gap. Yeah, but one thing that perhaps we haven't ventured into as a country, and I think we are known as a Silicon Valley in Kenya, is the tech industry. Telemedicine can rapidly bring the costs down. AI can actually build algorithms on patient flow because we have clinical pathways. I know of an institution who have mapped 12,000 clinical pathways in the industry, and they're looking at how to support even Avenue. How does the government now look at that and build indicators that help it even preempt the costs that are coming down? So we really need to find innovative solutions. But to answer your question plainly, the government may not necessarily be required in all the angles, all the places. We can, and in private sector, support the government in doing some of these things with an oversight authority, of course. Yeah.
So which are the areas do you feel the government should have a stronger mandate than the private sector, and where, and on the other hand, which areas do you feel the private sector, should more deeper than the government?
So government and also county governments, I think, are focused and should remain focused in policy and regulatory function. I think that's important, especially at the central government. Drafting integrated plans, service delivery for diseases and mapping and surveillance, and also ambulatory care where required. Where the hospitals and private sector, and not necessarily in the healthcare sector. I mean, I was talking to somebody this morning about an example of where tea estates have actually been able to run their own healthcare facilities within the tea estates. How are they able to do when they're not in the healthcare field? Is there a way we can partner with large organizations such as Kenya Breweries or East Africa Breweries, for example, with Safaricom, who is very key in foundation work, with Avenue Group, which is expanding to have fixed fee or universal healthcare, and Avenue is also already doing that, providing fixed fee services. So in provision of care, in delivery of care, the healthcare private sector can help. The private sector itself can help with corporates and blue chip companies who actually want to do things to help the organization and the government, and they can complement. In technology, I think they could be a partner within the industry. Safaricom comes to mind, providing solutions for telehealth. So you don't need a brick and mortar, you just need a kiosk, for example. Healthcare has been left behind. The banking industry moved way ahead in creating automated teller machines, the ATMs. Where can healthcare providers plug in and move into that industry? And to be honest, just to disclose here, Avenue is looking at those solutions, and you should see a digital in Kenya coming soon from Avenue, especially. Yeah.
Let's also talk about the cost of treatment in this country, and we know that as a country, we are spending about 10 billion shillings to send patients to other countries to access medical services, and this majority of them, they go to India, to USA, to Germany, to South Africa. Why is the cost of procedures in this country expensive?
So It comes in very many angles. One, the cost of equipment and the taxes levied on the equipment, whereas the government has really subsidized in eliminating VAT, for example, on exempt basis on application, helps to bring the cost down. But still, the cost to transport and bring the equipment down, the training of the specialists are not available in Kenya. I was told, I don't know, cardiology, we have only 30 in Kenya. 30, I believe, if that number is correct, the top-notch cardiologists.
That is not even enough for each county.
If you look at our WHO says that we need to be at 1 to 1,000 doctors and
ratio
and 1 to 280 nurses. But where are we today? We are at 1 to 10,000 doctors and 1 to 650 nurses. And we still have attrition of this brain drain of this skilled manpower. How do we bring the cost down? I think we need to relook at the entire continuum of care. Like I said, when a patient gets to decide that he wants to go abroad, sometimes it's not necessarily cheaper. It's just the fact that there's a trust element on the healthcare sector, both in private and public. We in private sector are working hard to get the accreditations to validate our care. We are working towards innovative models to bring the cost down through digital transformation, but it's not enough. The trust element still comes to count. I remember speaking to one of our staff who is actually seeking to go for further treatment in India, and this treatment is available in Kenya, but the cost of care in India is much cheaper because of the volume that they see. So if we are doing 10 surgeries, they are doing 1,000 surgeries. So economies of scale play. They are overflooded with skilled manpower. I was talking to another person last week about the problem of brain drain of nurses, exiting Kenya and going to UK, especially in recent months. But if we're looking at that as a problem, then we will see it as a problem. If we look at it as an opportunity, then we can be suppliers of nurses to UK, to the world. How do we create many nurses who are available to go and come back? Many come back as repatriates. How do you bring them back through a program into Kenya? And to bring the cost down, we also need to look at the type of treatment we give. Is it something that we can predict early enough in time so that it doesn't hit the patient at the end? So there are many ways of doing this, and we probably need another cup of coffee to talk over that.
Or maybe a cup of uji.
A cup of uji, yes.
I like the fact that you have brought in the issue of a brain drain, and we know that Kenya has really been struggling with this issue, whereby you have a lot of our doctors getting better remunerations in Germany, in UK, in US, in Australia, in Canada, and now even in Dubai. And the same is happening to our nurses, it is happening to our engineers, it is happening to so many people. Is it immoral, number one, for a country to sack its critical personnel, knowing too well that they need more of that, but they continue to sack them more by offering them better incentives because they can afford?
Well, ethical, I wouldn't want to answer that, but opportunity, I think they are not asking people to move to those countries. Kenyans and many people across the globe, even Nigeria for that matter, you get a call for a placement in US, you get a call for placement in Dubai. People are excited about that. And when we speak to our doctors, it's really not about the money at the end of the day. It counts heavily, but it's about, are they getting exposure? Are they learning every day? Is the environment suitable? So if you see a doctor who is coming to a county hospital or a private hospital for that matter, and they find that, look, he's sitting idle, he's not applying his mind for what the training is done for, they get bored, they get not challenged enough. Is the environment suitable? Yes and no. Is the equipment working? Many a times there's a breakdown and therefore they're not applying. Some have to treat patients symptomatically and to manage the care, at least to keep a continuum of care because of all this. And then there's disparity between one county and another, whereas the salary grading is good, but or is uniform, but the allowances differ from one county in Nairobi to another county, but they're same specialist. And when you talk about brain drain, you can even say that doctors prefer to stay in Nairobi or Mombasa or Kisumu. Even there is a drain within the country. The county of Wajir or the Wajir area, it doesn't get the best of the best because there's a drain from there as well. If you ask yourself, don't we have skilled, qualified doctors coming out of Wajir? The answer is there are many, but they prefer not to stay there.
They prefer to practice in Nairobi.
So, but telemedicine will crack all that. It breaks all the barriers to healthcare access. Of course, we can't eliminate the brick and mortar, but we can certainly improve access and even reduce if we enhance the work environment of the doctors and create an area where they are learning, cross-learning. We can actually have a partnership with, say, Dubai and tell them, you know, we are sending 10,000 doctors this year, but we expect 5,000 back in 2 years. And it could be a rotation basis where there's a symbiotic improvement, right? Yeah.
And I remember, you know, sometimes back in 2017, I can't remember very well, we tried that kind of a model with Cuba, you know, which has one of the best social healthcare in the world. Unfortunately, we don't have an account of what has been the impact of that and how its sustainability. But do we have a country in the world that has trialed that kind of a concept and succeeded?
I think Dubai is one of them. I mean, there are so many ins and outs in all sectors. Health is up and coming now. Dubai is focused, especially after COVID, in even robotics. But where they are looking at rotating doctors within countries, bringing even civil engineers in Dubai housed there. So I think Dubai would be a good case study to look at how they've modeled. And the doctors don't necessarily stay there for 5 years, 10 years. They are also rotating. We also need to be wary about our caseload in Kenya. I mean, do we have enough caseload for those doctors to keep busy? Or do we need a kind of a camp that is rotated? And this is where Avenue is trying to break those barriers, where we have specialists coming down every so often we build enough caseloads so the doctor feels motivated enough to come to Kenya and pass on that skill to our doctors locally. So yes, maybe Dubai would be a good case study.
And let's face it, I mean, health equipment are very expensive, and you know, investment in healthcare, and you know this better because you're in that field. And I was shocked, almost gobsmacked when I discovered that, you know, the cost of one PEP scan is almost $1 billion shillings. And how many institutions can afford 1 billion shillings just to buy an equipment and install it? And you're not factoring in the cost of repairing, running that system, the cost of hiring expertise and all these. But let's face it, the government has also invested heavily in the healthcare industry, and a good example is Kenyatta University Referral Hospital. It has some of the most modern health equipment in the world. So, and I know there are plans to construct about 10 of these kind of institutions in the country, but of course funding is always a challenge. Is there any way that you know, you can create a partnership between the private and the public sector to ensure that some of these challenges are offset by the symbiotic relation?
No, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned PET scan, and yes, do we have enough caseloads across the country? I mean, you're a population of 50 million now and growing. Do we have that kind of a population that can utilize that equipment effectively across the country? The answer is yes. As you go along, the NCD pattern shows us, non-communicable disease pattern shows us that the demand for that equipment with our lifestyle will be there. So yes, partnerships are important. Leasing is also an important. But from where technology is going, I was told soon we won't even need that big MRI or CT scan.
Yeah.
You will probably just be able to do this at that or with your phone or on a desk and not need that equipment. So I think the way healthcare is going, there is a lot of focus in bringing innovation into it and bringing the cost down. So I wouldn't be surprised in the future where even that PET scan is much lower in cost. But the investment in the innovation, the investment in the intelligence is what we need to make sure it doesn't then become that I've invested X amount of billions of dollars and therefore I need to recoup it. We need to look at healthcare as something that everybody deserves to get, and we need to look at it as a giving back, not an investment.
Finally, Osman, before I let you go, is it all doom and gloom in Kenya's health industry?
Absolutely not. I think we've come a long way. We have a lot of private hospitals that have come up and bringing down the cost. Their focus is quality. We have the government institutions that have devolved and are investing in a lot of facilities. We have mother and child health care programs that are looking at preventive of maternal health. So there is a lot of hope and there is a lot of interest in healthcare, including from the investors who are really looking at giving back to the community. And the healthcare sector is one area where even private investments are coming through just to have an impact in the country.
Very good.
Yeah.
Imran, thank you very much indeed for finding time to be with us this morning, and of course for sharing with us your inputs and your insight as well.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Well, we've been talking about the cost of healthcare in Kenya with the CEO of Avenue Group, Imran Osman, and of course we have benefited immensely from his insight on how we can bring down the cost of healthcare in this country, and of course how we can streamline our policies and our investment in this critical industry. Well, we have to come to the end of this conversation because Kurunzi Mashinani is coming up next, and thereafter we shall have the lunchtime news. So from me and the rest of business team, asante sana, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Let's keep talking. O'Brien, Kimani. Have a good afternoon.